Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Knitting Magic podcast here on YouTube. My name is Dawn Tracy. I am based in the Midlands. I'm a knitter, a crocheter, and I've started dabbling in embroidery as well. And this is my first ever podcast show episode. So I'm a little bit nervous. I've watched plenty of podcast shows and it's been something that I've always wanted to do, to share my knitting with everyone. And more so recently, since I've got into designing knitwear, I just really want to share my love for all things knitting and yarn. So yeah, welcome to the show. So I'm not actually wearing anything knitwear wise today. It's quite a nice day it's turning out to be, meaning as this morning it was very cloudy, very cold. We've had some lovely sunshine this afternoon here in the Midlands, so it's a little bit too warm for me at the moment to wear any knitwear, but I've got plenty to show you. But first of all, I want to tell you why I've called the podcast Knitting Magic. It's a bit of a dual meaning there. First of all, if you can have a pair of knitting needles, some yarn, and turn it into a garment or anything, whether it's a blanket or dishcloth, hand towel, anything like that, then to me, that is magic. And also because when I started learning to knit in 2020, it was towards the end of lockdown. Yeah, I needed something like a lot of people did at that time. I needed something to help me process everything, because at the time I worked in a primary school. I was a specialist support teacher, and my job during lockdown was to check on the well-being of vulnerable children and their families. So it was quite a lot to deal with, on top of personal challenges at that time. So I turned to knitting, and one of the first things I did when I began knitting was to knit the leaf top by Melanie from the Knit Stitch on Instagram. And I haven't got it here with me, but this year I've started knitting another one, so I will show you that in a little while when we talk about my whips. So yeah, I've been knitting since about 2020. Like, I threw myself in at the deep end, like always. Before that I was more of a crocheter. I learnt how to crochet in 2015, which was the year that my Auntie Tracy passed away, sadly. And crocheting was something that really helped me to work through the grief, work through my own mental health issues with anxiety that was triggered by that grief. And the main thing I did back then was to knit crochet a mood blanket, and it was something at the end of the day where I could focus for 15-20 minutes and crochet a granny square in a colour that related to how I was feeling that day. And it became not just a mood blanket but a memory blanket as well. Kind of like the first year without my auntie. So that was my introduction to crochet. From then I became addicted to crocheting shawls. It was just something that was so easy to crochet, and it worked up really quickly. It was colourful. There are a variety of patterns out there, but some of my favourites were the granny square shawl. I've crocheted about 3 of those, one for my mum, one as a gift, and I've still got one that's still a whip from years ago. We put those projects in the naughty corner, which we don't talk about, not until we're ready to bring them out of the naughty corner. So what did I crochet after that? Another shawl was just a corner to corner shawl using moss stitch, which is one of my favourites. Like, it is amazing. In fact, I'm crocheting a blanket at the moment, but we'll talk about that again in whips. Yeah, I didn't really crochet any garments though. It was mainly baby blankets, lots of corner to corner blankets, granny square blankets. I did a trellis stitch blanket from Attic 24, and I called it my sweet pea blanket. It was at the time that Attic 24 were doing the sweet pea crochet along, but I didn't use the yarn pack. I used different variegated yarn that I was gifted at the time from a friend. So yeah, I did that as well. But then in 2020, crocheting wasn't enough to keep my hands busy, to keep my mind busy, and I wasn't getting that therapeutic relaxation from it. So what did I do? Did I start off with garter stitch? No. Maybe stockinette stitch? No. I go with lace, and I go with the knit stitch from Melanie from the Knit Stitches pattern, the leaf top, and I was hooked on knitting then. I just loved how with simple movements you could literally create magic in form of lace knitwear, which is something I really adore now, and something that I try to incorporate in my patterns now when designing. So I had a companion at the time when I began knitting, and that was in the form of my little baby boy, Little Magic, my fur baby. But sadly, in October last year, we lost him very unexpectedly, very suddenly. He had a seizure, and he was 14, and there's not a day that I don't miss him, and there's not a day that I'd give anything to have him back. So I wanted to keep him with me on this next part of my journey, hence why it's called Knitting Magic. So my darling little boy will always be with me. Yeah, so that's a little bit of an introduction to me. I'm not married. I don't currently have any children. Hopefully one day, fingers crossed. Yeah, should we just get into the nice, we'll get into the nice knitting objects, and I would say we'll do knitty chat at the end, but more than likely we'll be doing it throughout, so that's a little introduction to me. If I was going to choose a garment to wear, I would wear the Tulip jumper by Melody Hoffman at Bee Mandarines. I absolutely love and adore Melody. She's a true inspiration. I love how she uses her love for history and culture and weaves it into her patterns, and it's just beautiful. But then the Tulip jumper, I've got it here. I actually knit this quite a while ago, and I knit it in Paintbox DK in Taupe, and I think I bought 7 balls of yarn, expecting to need them all. Still very new to knitting back then, but I didn't. I think I used 5.5, So I was very, very pleased with that. Plus I actually did it longer. So it's got this gorgeous raglan, which is magic to me. Like, I just love how it looks on jumpers. It's amazing. And then you just normal knit stitch, stockinette stitch, and then we have this beautiful detailing at the bottom, which gives it the name. Oh, there's an end there, I haven't weaved in. Let's ignore that. Shh. This beautiful end hem, which is, I'd never seen it done before, and it was so, once I got my head around it and watched the tutorial that she did for it, it was quite easy to do, and I think it's just a really, really pretty way of finishing off a jumper, and that gives it its name, the Tulip jumper. And yeah, I love it. And the reason why I used Paintbox DK, which is acrylic, is because at the time I was still working in a school and I needed something that I could wear, and it wouldn't really matter if, being a teacher with 6-year-olds, I happened to need to throw it in the washing machine, get it tumble dried, without losing the quality of the jumper and of the yarn. So yeah, I like to be very practical, so I will use acrylic yarns. I won't shy away from them, because I tend to be very much a doing person. So whilst I no longer work in primary schools, I'm very practical around the house, in the garden, and I want something that's going to be very hard wearing, especially if I've taken so much time to knit a garment. I want to get some decent wear out of it before it starts to look like I've had it for decades. Nothing wrong with garments looking like you've had them for decades. I think that's a very sweet and romanticised look for knitwear. But yeah, that's what I would be wearing if I was wearing knitwear today. So we have a never-ending list of whips. I'm going to start with one that would have been a finished object had I not mislaid it over Christmas. And it's a pair of socks, and I started knitting them, but then because we were coming up to Christmas, I thought I'm going to put them away because I'm going to be too busy. And not only that, I'm not really going to want to be knitting such bright colours, and you'll see why. So I've got them on the sock blocker at the moment. So this is the colour. You can see very pink, and also very, very green. If I take them off the sock blocker, this is actually one of my own designs. It was my second pattern design, and it was part of a collection that I called the Everlasting Union because of the interlocking pattern. Let's see if you can. There we go. And I took inspiration from my mum and dad's wedding rings for this, because they've got that gorgeous interlocking chain Celtic design on their wedding rings, and I wanted something that symbolised an everlasting union, and what more than your mum and dad's wedding rings. And I actually released this pattern nearly a year ago now, so on the 9th of April last year, because it was to mark what would have been my dad's birthday. So he always loved a good pair of socks, so that's why I created a pair of socks for him, the pattern anyway. So yeah, this is my second pair in this pattern, and the cuff and toe, I can't remember the exact colourway, but it was from Claire, who has Ruffles Yarn. She does some amazing yarns, like I've got a basket full of them. They are beautiful, such good quality, beautiful colours, and so soft as well. And the pink is from My Yarn Place. Trying to think of the colourway. Still got the label. I'll put the details in the description box below of everything that I've used. But yeah, this was a lovely soft sock yarn. So I only got one sock finished. When I went to start the second sock, couldn't find it anywhere. I'd put them in that wonderful safe place. Looked a million times, couldn't find them. Then I found them, which is usually the way. So I've already done the cuff in that lovely green. I think they're in 20-gram skeins. So this is, I want to say that this is still skein number 1. I want to say that. I'll need to check. And this is what's left of the pink to knit up the sock. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention on the sock. I included a different heel. And this is from, I had permission of the lovely Judy from Acorn Knits. I want to say Acorn Knits. It's going to be Autumn Knits. It's because I'm worrying about doing the podcast. I'm going to get all the names wrong. I had her permission to include her magic heel, which is just rib stitch, but it's a beautiful magic heel. So it stretches wonderfully well to the shape and still maintains the shape of sock. And I'm an absolute convert for the magic heel. So yeah, I'm sure it's Acorn Knits Autumn Acorn, the Autumn Acorn, Judy. Yeah, it just makes the sock really beautiful by having such a wonderful heel on. So hopefully there'll be some progress on sock number 2. But saying that, I'm currently having to be careful with my hand because we've had a journey and a half with this hand. It's been getting very stiff. It's been getting very stiff, specifically ring finger. It's been giving me a lot of pain in my wrists, which we've now finally got the diagnosis of carpal tunnel. So I'm doing the right things for that now, resting, icing, wearing a splint, and it seems to be getting better. Seems to be, so fingers crossed. Next whip. I don't think I could not talk about this wonderful pattern. A lot of people on Instagram have been on a petite knitathon, I'm not going to say, and I joined in with something that was going to be for my mum for her birthday, but then it got delayed because of my hand. It was going to be Mother's Day, still delayed, so I'm hoping to get this finished now. And that is the Sophie scarf. I have started a Sophie shawl, but I haven't got that. That's downstairs. maybe my next podcast I'll show you the Sophie shawl that I'm doing, and that might motivate me to get it finished. It's a wonderful, wonderful design. I'm using 2 yarns here. So what I'm using is 1 strand of this mohair, and it was in stash and the label had come off, and it was the only one in stash, so I can't even check. I'm thinking it reminds me of a mohair that I had from Hobbii, so it might be the Diablo mohair, but I'm not sure. And what I've done is I've held that single stranded with this Sandnes Garn, Sandnes Garn Perfect. I don't know why the camera's blowing out. It's a superwash. So what I'd originally bought this for was socks, and I've ended up using it for this because it's so soft. And this is 80% wool, 20% nylon. It's 50 grams, but you've got 100 meters on there. So I'm just over halfway of this. So this was halfway. So yeah, got a little bit to go. So I don't think I'm going to use all of this, but I'm definitely going to use some of it to finish that off. And it's really nice and soft. Just move that out of the way. Yeah, it's definitely really nice and soft. And I like how it's working up. It's a really simple pattern, very clever. You've got this beautiful I-cord edging. Don't know if you can see that. Goes on both sides and just finishes off really beautiful. Keeps that nice straight line on the one side. So yeah, it's a lovely pattern. Everyone's been knitting it. I was talking to my friend Emily about it, and when I first started knitting my shawl, that's the scarf, the shawl's the bigger one. When I started knitting the shawl, and she wasn't very sure, she was like, I don't know whether to knit it or not, and I was like, oh, I'm loving it, and then I was like, I'm getting a bit bored of it now because it's getting so long. I just want to get it finished. And yeah, it's not quite in the naughty corner, but it's kind of like having a strop sitting across the room from me, glaring at me. Yeah, it's kind of having a tantrum with me at the moment. So yeah, I'll show you on my next podcast, and then it will motivate me to get it finished. Right, I don't want to waffle on for too long because nerves are getting the better of me, and I know that'll settle down the more I do this. I just don't want to bore you to tears. Another design. So my next whip, I started this when my hand was being a bit of a problem, and I knew that I couldn't hold knitting needles because it was hurting the finger joints because it was pressing. I think there's like a little bit of RSI in with it as well, so I've got a lot of repetitive strain, and then I think that was just having an impact on the nerves. But a few years back I did some nerve damage on the left side of my body anyway, so the fact that it's my left side still causing issues doesn't surprise me. Anyway, my next whip is my first crochet garment, and this is a pattern called, I'm just looking at my notes, it's called the Emma Top, and it's by the Easy Design, and it's so simple, I love it. So I'm doing it in Paintbox Cotton DK. Come on, camera, sort yourself out. Is it working? No. Well, it's Paintbox Cotton DK, and it's in colourway 410 Soft Fudge, and I've left a few stitch markers in places just so I know where I've got to. So it's this V-neck design. So I'm a plus size crocheter and knitter, so I'm trying to get over the fact that my garments look humongous on camera. But also I like things that's really loose and drapey and a bit boho-y, so I tend to do things that are like 1 or 2 sizes bigger than what the pattern says anyway, because I just love a good drape on things. So you've got this beautiful shaping. Let's get onto the pattern done. So you've got this beautiful shaping here, which will come shaping around the bust line and the armpit, and then you've got this shaping that goes down to the waist, and then I've done this little fleck out just because of my body shape, and then I've just started going quite straight. Yeah, so I've left my stitch marker in where I finish for the bust line and armhole. Yeah, I've left some stitch markers in to show me where I'm going with my pattern repeats so that I know where I'm at. And this is worked in 2 panels. So this is the front panel, and you've got this shaping in the middle to begin with, and then when you get so far it kind of disappears. This is awful, I'm so sorry. So you've got the shaping there, and then it disappears and you're just crocheting straight rows, which helps add a bit of shaping as well. So you knit the front, you crochet the front panel, and then you crochet the back panel, sew them together and crochet the straps, which I love. It's so simple. It really isn't, you know, an easy design. It's great if you've never crocheted a garment before, especially like a garment for yourself. I've crocheted baby cardigans, and that's not too bad. But I think when you're starting to crochet for yourself, it was a bit nerve-wracking considering that I've been knitting garments, but I've never crocheted them. But I'd been a crocheter before, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's been a learning curve, but I'm really enjoying it. And I'm not that far from the bottom of the panel. So I'll be starting the back panel soon, which is worked in exactly the same way. Yeah, and hopefully that will be a finished object soon, and then you'll be able to see that, and I'll be able to tell you more about it. But yeah, it's been really enjoyable to do. Let me talk about the leaf top, because I have knit one before, but I'm knitting one again this year. So this one is knit in panel. My hair's in the way, I'm so sorry. This one is knit in panels. Which panel is this? This is the left. So it's knit in panels. It's beautiful, isn't it? I'm doing it in a black cotton. Melanie gives you the choice of creating like a straight bottom, straight hem, or having this. It's not being blocked, so it's really hard to see. But I throw it over my shoulder. Or having it as, you know, with the pattern, so the leaves come down like that. Yeah. So it's really hard to show with black lace, but there we go. So that is panel 1. So you do a left panel, a right panel and a back panel. And what I've done is I've created this wider panel going up to the shoulder, purely because I have ample breasts and wanted to give them good coverage, and I don't always like my bra strap showing through, so yeah, and I just finished it off by keeping it quite wide and then doing a section of stockinette, and then I'll just join that together, and the stockinette won't really be seen that much because it'll be like the seam on my shoulder anyway. Yeah, I absolutely adore this pattern. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. I knit a cream jumper in the same pattern and it's just gorgeous. But yeah, so you imagine, new to knitting, never knit before, couldn't grasp it, first pattern that you start with, this. How beautiful is that? It's so, I mean, it's not even been blocked yet, but just look at the drape on that. And again, that is Paintbox Cotton DK in pure black. I go for dark colours and neutral colours because it just tends to work with my wardrobe, tends to work with my skin colouring, and it's what I enjoy wearing. But I do love a bit of colour, and whilst I'm wearing pink today, I'm having a pink moment because you can tell the bedroom is pink. But then I've got 2 other whips that I want to talk about, and then I'll finish with a whip. So I've got 3 whips. Right, so talking about my Everlasting Union socks, my first pattern design was the Everlasting Union face cloth, and I've started an Everlasting Union hand towel, and it's worked slightly different to the face cloth and slightly different to the baby blanket. So we've got this little border going around, section of stockinette here, then we have the lace work, then we have this just stockinette, and then when you turn over and work the purl side, you're literally just purling all the way across. I wrote it as an introductory pattern to anyone who wanted to try lace work. Hadn't really felt confident enough to try lace work, but didn't feel intimidated by 16 stitches of lace work. And it's really simple. I walk you through it step by step, row by row. I'm literally there with you. And I've had so many positive compliments and feedback on the pattern, saying that it's been a wonderful introduction to lace work. It's really rubbish because it's not showing up properly because I'm more pink. Does that? There we go. So the hand towel pattern is in progress. But again, with my hand, it's, whilst I could write the pattern now and release it, I haven't got a finished photo. And I like to have a finished photo, and I like to have worked through it, or at least run a test knit so that it can be worked through. So it is coming. So that's something for you to look forward to if hand knit cotton towels is something you're interested in. And I forgot to say, this colourway is, again, Paintbox Cotton DK. I'm not getting paid to say this, honestly. Like, I did an order the other week, last week, and I had all my yarns arrive, to which people commented, Do you think you have enough? And you just should never say that. Just don't say that to somebody. It's rude. Never enough yarn. And it is in bubble gum pink, and it's so beautiful. Although I ordered because I was in love with, I had 3 balls of this, hence why I started the hand towel. And because I loved how it worked up in the colour, I thought I need to knit a garment in this colour. So I ordered enough cotton DK to create 2 garments, and I ordered the DK yarn, the wool, but it doesn't match, like it's not the same exact shade. So the cotton DK is the pink that I want, like a salmon pink, whereas the DK wool, for me, it looks a bit, it's kind of in between those two. So it's not quite the bubble gum, it's not quite fluorescent, but it's not far off. And it's still a lovely pink, don't get me wrong, and I'll find something to do with it. But it's just not what I was hoping for. But I'm sure I will find the right pink. So, yeah. I do like that pattern. It's nice when you just want to do something simple. And you know, you just want to focus for like a little bit, and then you want to like just mindlessly knit without having to think about what you're doing. So yeah, that's what that project's for. I have quite a lot of whips, don't I? I was talking to Emma from Emma C Makes, and I remember this once. She did a poll on her Instagram, and she asked, "How many whips have you got?" Because I want to feel better about how many I've got. And it's just astonishing. We're not, you know, there's so many of us that have more than one whip. I have been that person that can do 1 whip at a time, but I'm not that person right now. So don't judge me. I have got a couple of more whips, but we will talk about those in the next episode because it is just like information overload. But I do want to share this one because when we was talking about petite knits, again, I went on a petite knit spree, just like everyone else. I wanted to be in the in crowd. Didn't want to be left out. So I started to knit the no frills sweater in black because I wanted a staple black jumper that I can wear anywhere with anything at any time and still look effortlessly elegant and chic. So I went with the no frills sweater. So we have separated for sleeves. Yes, the sleeve holes are ginormous. It is meant to be an oversized sweater anyway. So, yeah. We are that far from separating the sleeves. That's how much I've done on the body. And it's at that lovely time now. You know, you just knit. You don't even have to look at what you're doing. And I'm quite shocked that actually during the winter months, or some of the darker months, February, I think I cast this on in February, I was able to knit and it didn't cause me a problem at all being black yarn. And so many people talk about how knitting with black yarn, is it possible, it's really difficult, and I was prepared for that, but I didn't find it that way for me. But then I'm weird, so who knows. So yeah, we've got this lovely oversized, completely oversized sweater. So yeah, it's not going to be the last no frills sweater that I knit. I sound like a broken record. I'm using Paintbox DK in black for that. And I think I'm on my third ball. Let me check. I can check on the inside. So, is that one skein there? Skein, ball. So hang on. There's a join there. One. Yeah, I think I'm on my third ball. I'm on my third ball of yarn, and this is making like one of the larger sizes, but again oversized for me. So yeah, it's a really enjoyable knit. I don't enjoy doing German short rows. I've just kind of got used to raglans and enjoy the raglans, but I do not enjoy German short rows. But I enjoyed the German short rows on the no frills sweater. It didn't feel like hard work. It didn't feel complicated. It just felt really enjoyable. And yeah, it's just so nice. And I just can't wait to wear it. So I really need to carry on knitting it. And I would be knitting it despite my hand if I wasn't working on another whip, which is actually one of my designs that I'm doing for summer. So briefly talk to you about that just because it looks so pretty and I'm so proud of it. So proud of it. Right, this is where my yarn gets all tangled now. So because my hand's been hurting, I've had to do slow knitting, and that means less time knitting, less rounds of repetition, and taking it really slowly and trying to be patient with myself that it's going to take longer than it usually would. So this is a design. So proud of it. I'm doing this in the bubblegum pink cotton DK from Paintbox that the handtail's being done in, because I said that I needed something, and I needed a garment in that colour. I just needed one. So we have, oh, it's beautiful, this round neckline. Now I used larger needles to do the collar, purely because I like a loose collar. I can't stand things around my neck really tight. Makes me feel trapped. I just don't like things around my neck. It's a trauma response, and I don't like it. So I went for big needles. On the pattern there will be the option. You can either keep them big needles like me, or you can go down a needle size. That's not a problem. You know, this is about your wardrobe. And then we've got this thin one line of white yarn to add a hint of a stripe. Stripes are huge right now, especially in knitwear. And then we have no raglan increases, none whatsoever. Instead we have a yoke increase, which tested my patience, tested my aim for perfection, because as you know, when you do a yoke increase you get these little holes here that it looks like, but it looks fine. It's totally fine. It was I think I did 3 yoke increases on it, and it was, the first 2 were fine. The third one completely miscalculated, had to go back to the drawing board, started again. And then we broke for the sleeves, and then we get to the fun bit. I'm gonna have to fold it in half, I'm so sorry. It's really lightweight and drapey, it's just the way I've positioned the camera. So maybe next time the camera will be further away. So it's all a learning curve. Please don't judge me. So then we've got the stripes. Now, the stripes are specifically, purposefully designed to run underneath the bust, down the torso. And that's because, from my own experience, of being very modest in how I dress, but also I'm not one of those people that likes to have my chest on show. Nothing wrong if you are, totally fine, and you could totally add the stripes higher up if you wanted to, but for this, I promise it will work. We've got this beautiful stripe. So not only have we got the stripes with the colour work, we've got the stripes with the design feature because we've got these dropped stitches. Can you see? Now I'm thinking in the warmer weather that's going to be lovely. It's going to be very breezy. I've left enough room so it's not directly underneath the arm. And the plan is to have 3 portions of these stripes before maintaining the plain stockinette for the rest of the body. It depends how long you want your t-shirt to be. If you want it shorter, it's less repeats. If you want it longer, it's more repeats. But I'm aiming for 3, because then by creating the 3 stripes and then having the bodywork of pink, it creates that nice little ability to tuck it into your jeans or your shorts without having risk of your buttons or anything getting trapped on these. Now, what I will say about this is you can be put off because you can think, oh no, what if my nails get caught in it? Look, my nails got caught in it. It hasn't ruined the top because you simply play about with it, and can you see? It's gone back. It's totally fine. It is not ruined at all, and I gave it a good old tug there. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. Oops. I have this habit of getting so excited about my knitwear, showing it off, like, even to friends and family, and then I look down and half the loops have come off the needles. So this is going to be the River Run tee. So the River Run t-shirt, again, is oversized. You can have more of a fitted one, you just choose the size to make it more fitted. I'm doing the slightly oversized version, again, personal preference, but also because I want to see it in that nice drapey, free boho look to it. So the sleeves are going to have a couple of options. So I'm not going to go into that just yet because I want to surprise you. But yeah, it's worked up 4 days. Today's day 5. From cast on to there. 5 days. And that's with a really dodgy hand. So if you're a fast knitter and you don't have a dodgy hand like me, and perhaps you knit a smaller size, you could have this done so quickly. It's going to be one of those knit and go, I think. Like, you can literally whip it up, get it done. Perfect for summer holidays, perfect for days at the beach, perfect for those garden parties in the, yeah. And like, you can wear this with a vest top underneath if you want a bit more modesty, or if you don't feel confident enough, or you can just try it without it and just see. Yeah, so that's my whips. I was going to do a bit of a knitted chat, but we've done it throughout, and I think that's worked. For me, it's worked for this episode. So if you're still watching, thank you so much for sticking with me for this long. I was a bit nervous, and I know that, and I know it will come across that way. Maybe the next episode I'll focus on less projects, have more details on the yarn, to talk to you about rather than just listing it in the description box. And I'll try and relax a little bit. It might be a bit easier next time. So I'd love to know what you're working on right now. And yeah, just any comments, kind comments, leave below, and I will see you for episode 2. What I will say is you can find me on Instagram as Calm Happy Knits, and you can find me on Ravelry as My Calm Happy Knits. And now you can find me here at Knitting Magic on YouTube. So thank you so much for joining me for my first ever episode, my first ever knitting podcast, and I hope to see you soon on the next episode, possibly in a couple of weeks. Give me time to get some of these whips done so we have more finished objects, less whips, and more exciting things to talk about. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.